right, picking up where we left off. For that number 6, it says it costs 50 cents to download an individual song and $4 to download an album. Jada has $15 to spend downloading music. Then it says to complete the table, showing 3 ways that Jada can spend $15 on downloading individual songs and albums. So what we're going to do is this. If we say something like this, if it says that she used 6 individual songs, how much remaining money does Jada have to spend on the album? So if we do 0.5 times 6, we know that's going to be $3. So that means if we do 15 minus, let's say 3, 15 minus 3, we know that there's $12 remaining to spend on albums. So if it costs $4 per album, we can do $12 divided by 4 to get our number of albums, which would be 3. So make sure you can kind of see how I pieced that together. I was able to find out how much was left over after doing that. So now we could do same idea. If we take this amount and say that it is 1 times 4 is $4, and so then if we take, sorry, it should be 15. If they spent $4 on albums, they have a remaining $11 for the number of songs. And so what we could do is take 0.5, or let's do 11. 11 divided by 0.5 is going to be equal to 22. So that means that 22, let me get this out of here, 22 is going to be the number of songs that they can get if they buy 1 album. And now another way you can do it is you can use that change in Y, change in X, or you can just calculate it like this. So if they calculate and say the same idea as we did in the first place, you take 0.5 times 30, that would be 15. So that means that we would have $0 remaining if they bought 30 individual songs. Then it says to write an equation relating the number of individual songs S and the number of albums A that Jada can download. And so it's going to be in that standard form. So we're going to have it like this. We're going to say 0.5 times S, and that's going to be plus 4 times A equals 15. And what we can do is we can also write it in using that X and Y form, so that way we can actually graph it out. And so what I'm going to do is, for the next part, it says to sketch the graph of the solutions to your equation. And so what we can do, again, always go to that wonderful Desmos calculator. And so we can graph it like this. I can notice how I already have my window set up. So I have my window set up so that way I have my x-axis is the number of individual songs, and my y-axis is the number of albums. Notice how it has the step for my x-axis as 2 because it's counting by 2s, and my y-axis is counting by 1s. And so what I can do is I can use that equation that I had. So I could say 0.5x plus 4y equals 15. And so now I can actually use this kind of plot out my points. And so what I can do is I can kind of look at that x-intercept and the y-intercept, where x-intercept is 30, 0, and y-intercept is 0 and 3.75. And so now what I'm going to do is be able to sketch that on this graph here. So let me actually try that out, try graphing it out on Desmos, so that way you can see how it works. So now on here, let me graph that out. So I'm going to say about right here is that 0, comma, it's 3.75, and my bottom number is 30, 0. Be able to draw that line connecting those two. So let me connect those two. You can use that ruler for yourself to be able to draw that straight line. So it should be something like that. Alrighty, and on the very back, it says a cell phone plan costs $200 to start. Then there is a $50 charge each month. For part A, it says what is the total cost? That means the startup fee and monthly charge to use a cell phone plan for 1 month. Well, if it's just for, let's do green, if it's just 1 month, that means that it is 50 times 1. Let me use parentheses because that's what I've been using. So 50 times 1 is still 50, and I have to have the $200 to start with, so it's 200 plus 50, which is going to be $250. And now what is the total cost for X months? And so what we can do is we can write the equation. So this is just like write the equation. And so what we're going to say is we're going to say the equation is going to be in that form y equals, our slope is 50 because we have $50 per X months plus the original startup fee of $200. So then the part C is to graph the cost of the cell phone plan over a period of 2 years using months as the unit of time. And so I actually gave you the graph. They wanted you to label it for yourself, but again, I can give you just this graph so that way it's easier. So on here, I know my starting point using that starting point of 200, so I'm going to plot that one out. So I guess I'll keep it green. I'll do that point of 0 to 100. And it's saying if I plug in some values, if you wanted to, you can actually graph it out, but I know it's increasing by $200 every 4 months, because if I do 4 times 50, that's another 200. So that means my slope is 2 steps to the right, 1 step up. So make that staircase, be able to graph those points. Again, they should be all on the same line. Once I have that line, I can say this, label it together, or draw the lines through, and I'm going to label it as my equation y equals 50x plus 200. And we'll come back to this picture in just a second. For part D, it says, is there a proportional relationship between time and the cost of the cell phone plan? So we know that the relationship is not proportional. An easy way to be able to tell that is we can say since it does, let me actually say since the graph or the line does not go through the point 0, 0. So you always want to look at that. If the way to tell it's proportional without looking at the equation or kind of looking at the situation, just be able to say, hey, when I graph it out, does it go through the point 0, 0? Yes or no? And then for the last part, on the last one, it says draw a line parallel to the line we graphed. That goes through the point 0 and 350. Suppose that this line represents the pricing plan for another company. What is the startup fee and monthly cost of this plan? And so since I know it is parallel, let me do it in red. Since I know it's parallel, that means parallel line means same slope. And so what I can do is I can use my y-intercept, so this is our y-intercept, to be able to come up with the equation. So I'm going to say my equation is going to be y equals 50x plus 350. And we can say the different parts of this. We can say that's going to be the monthly cost, and this is going to be the startup fee. Startup fee. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to go back to my previous slide and graph it out. So go back to your previous slide. And we're going to say, okay, it starts at the point 350, so that's about right here. So you can say this is 0 and 350. And now we have the plot points that are above it. So it has to be same slope. So it's going to be basically the same lines, meaning the same slope, but they have to be parallel. So I cannot have them intersect. So it kind of has that same space in between them, where that space is $150. Once you have those points plotted, take your line, graph it through, let's try that again, graph it through those points, like so, and make sure you label it. We're going to say this is the other company where it has 50x plus 350. Again, make sure that you're asking questions, be able to pause, rewind, replay, and as always, super slam that subscribe button.